So first of all, let me welcome our esteemed guests for this session today. This topic is very important and sensitive about workplace investigation, and especially in current time. And I think we have got lucky to have three very seasoned and experienced industry stalwarts to take us through their own experiences and learnings around this topic. So first of all, let me introduce Manoj. Manoj has a very critical meeting. He will join us in few minutes time. So he'll have to bear with us. And he requested, I said, absolutely understandable. He had some critical meeting to attend. But to introduce him, Manoj is Dr. Manoj is a PhD in HR, and he is leader for industrial relations at Adani Group. He has been there in this group for fairly long time as a business HR leader and now as a group head for industrial relations. Very matured, seasoned professional, and I'm really looking forward to learn a lot from him. And he has led the compliances or the employee investigations, union negotiations for variety of industries for fairly long time. So we'll look forward to hear from him is about his experiences, and he'll be joining us in maybe 5-10 minutes. Then we have Padma. Padma is my ex-colleague from IBM, and she has 30 years plus experience into employee and labor relations. And right now, she's Associate Director, Employee Relations at Kindle, and her focus is on employee concerns globally. So I think not only about India, her experience and expertise in a global environment for a large global organization will be very, very helpful. So Padma, thank you very much for joining in today. If you can say hi so that people can recognize you in the frame.
Hi everyone. Good afternoon.
And she's joining us from Bangalore, and Manoj will be joining us from Ahmedabad. Next is my friend Sushil Tayal. Sushil Tayal is also a partner with Enabling World, and he's the one who started, and he's a founding member. But I would say he has very deep expertise, not only as a uh, as a trainer, but in his corporate life, he has been leading a lot of sensitive, large investigations very successfully. And he is a certified coach. He has been a global HR role. He has been doing. But most interesting for today's session is that he has trained more than 1,000 HR and business professionals specifically on this topic of workplace investigation. So I think he not only will leverage his own personal experiences into the corporate, but while conducting trainings and workshops for variety of industries across the country, we'll look forward to his own experiences, what challenges people face in this workplace investigation, and learn from him. So Sushil, if you can say hi to
Yeah,
everyone.
hi. Welcome, everyone.
All right. A brief introduction about Enabling World. So Enabling World is about what more than 12 years into existence, and so she started our focus are into multiple areas, which is HR consulting and training, HR functional training. We do a lot of work in leadership and talent development. DI is another passion for us, and we have done huge amount of work, deep work with our clients in this area, whether it's a DI audit or consulting or conducting various training programs. Employee well-being also is an area that we have done a lot of work for corporates about employee well-being, about POSH, about well-being audits, etc., etc. So I think these are the four pillars that we have been working into, and thank you very much for your support and your encouragement throughout all these years to our customers and our friends, professional colleagues. With that small introduction, so let's get straight into this session, right? So, Padma, Sushil, are we ready? Do we have your permission? All right.
Yes.
Okay. So, to begin with, why we thought of this topic, and it's not a usual typical topic for the panel discussions in HR, right? The reason is when I was reading about it and in my own experience, workplace investigation or employee concerns, the instances or the ratio, it is going up. It is increasing. First of all, that's a trend. And that's not about India, but that's globally. It could be taken both positive and negative. Positive because a lot of people are aware about their rights, about their, what they can expect from the organization. and they are vocal about it, which is a positive thing versus keeping things under the carpet. The negative thing could be that are we as an organization being proactive in spotting the areas of the issues that employees have, and are we addressing it proactively, right? I think both plus and minuses. But I think today's topic, another concern that I read about and in my own experience is that still there are a lot of cases which go unreported. And why they go unreported? Because people feel there's a fear of retaliation, or they've lost faith in, oh, I don't know whether organization will really take my issue seriously or not, right? So sometimes people decide to quit versus raising an issue. So there are a lot of complex issues. And the third issue is, are we really building up skills within the HR community? Primarily, when I'm talking about, and this session, I'm assuming that most of us are from HR fraternity. Are we preparing our workforce or our HR team who are capable to run investigations properly? Are they really ready? Are they scared to get into this? Do they really are trained? What are the gaps? How do we upskill them? Is another issue that will help the cause, right? So there are two, three areas that we are grappling with. So we'll cover most of these during the session. It's just about 1 hour, so we have very limited time. We'll stay very sharp focus on the probing playbook, as the title said, because workplace investigation can be very broad topic, but today we'll focus a little more laser focused on the probing skills, right? How do we? That's the real core of the workplace investigation. So with that, let me, Sushil, start with you if I can. First of all, what's your experience with workplace investigation? Briefly, if you can tell us, how did you get into this area and what has been your experience? Briefly, if you could start with that, first of all.
Fate brings me in this space. 1986, I started thinking I'll be a kind of a HR professional around. Those days there was an IR, so I was placed to manage the IR. And since then, the bigger exposure to laws, unions, litigations, and that also gives me, deep insights about why it is important to investigate well so that your investigation stand the scrutiny of law. And I think that's where the foundation works in. Initially, I was part of investigation team, then now I'm an advisory to investigation space, but I love this space.
Perfect. So you're the right person for us to share a lot of your experiences. Thank you. And so, Padma, coming to you, what has been your, I know you have been into employee concerns, employee relations all these 30 years, right? So my God, you are a guru, I would say, in this space. So how did you get into this? It was an accident or by
So as
choice?
no, it is by choice.
Okay.
After my master's, I joined GE,
Okay.
and those days it was called personal department, as Sushil said, IR. So I
Hmm.
joined the IR team, and I was the only lady in the team, HR team then.
Okay.
And I think it has taken me from there to here 30 years. And I have worked as the generalist, HR partner, HR leader, and then the COE lead. And I'm in employee concerns now. So it
COE
has been
means
a
Center
30
of
years
Excellence
center of
in employee
excellence.
relations.
Yeah.
Great, great. Right, absolutely. Perfect.
So,
So I think we are
Sanjeev,
going
let me
to,
just chip in.
huh,
When both Padma started or when I started and you started, those days it was called industrial relation. That was considered to be a masculine field. And as Padma said, I'm the
right.
only one. But in my career, the best employee relation managers and experts I have found in my team always been a woman. I mean, they have amazing skill to be tough and to be soft when they are.
Actually, and we'll talk about it. Absolutely, you're
Mm.
right, because the quotient of empathy during the whole investigation, you're not an interrogator, right? You still have to deal
Absolutely.
things with empathy, with compassion, right? And that is where I think absolutely, I mean, I'm not stereotyping, but women score much higher typically, right, compared to men. But I'm happy that, Padma, you are breaking that stereotype myth, and you're creating space and becoming a role model for a lot of women HR professionals to be a core into industrial relations and employee concerns. So thank you very much for leading the way. So first of all, Sushil, if I can ask you, there are different terms used: disciplinary inquiry, workplace investigation, investigations. Are they all part of the same family? Are there differences in that? Very crisp, just as a setting the stage and being on the common ground. Very quick.
So they are actually part of the same umbrella,
Okay.
right? And the interchangeable terms is investigation versus inquiry. And I mean, it's difficult to find out which is the head and which is the tail for that matter, right?
Mhm.
But in general, investigation is about finding the facts, and inquiry is about making a meaning and a judgment out of the facts available. A simple parlance, police does the investigation, court does the inquiry. Okay. But what happens is specifically when you look at there are procedural requirements by the labor, specifically if you are a workman and now it's a worker category, you have to
Mhm.
follow a specific procedure, while in principle the the process of finding the truth is the same philosophically. But for when you call it workplace investigation, you normally look at ethics issues, behavior issues, all other issues where you're trying to find the fact around and making a judgment. When it comes to domestic inquiry, there is a procedure which is followed under the labor law. And this inquiry report, generally, if it is not followed, becomes an input to the domestic inquiry as an evidence. If it is pre-domestic inquiry before the charge sheets are issued, when it comes to POSH, is again, while the term is called inquiry, but a lot of time the IC gets involved into investigation. But there again, the procedure mentioned under POSH has a different guidelines. But they're all a process of getting the facts around and taking an appropriate measures.
Thank you. I think that that's very interesting analogy that you drew, that what police does and what the court does, right? Court does the inquiry and police does the investigation, right? That's how it is. All right. So Padma, you want to add anything to this, or you agree with what Sushil is saying? You want to add anything to this?
No, I agree with social. It is completely basis the principles of natural justice, right? So give the parties a fair opportunity to be heard and to be spoken about the issues. So
Okay.
the
So that's
basis say
that's a
only the
principle that we follow
structured,
whether throughout the process that you're saying.
yeah.
All right. So Padma, asking you first of all, when it comes to the, and we're talking about the corporates right now, that within our scope for discussion today is the corporates. In the corporates, when we do the corporate investigation, who should lead this? Should it be led by HR? Should it be led by the business? The reason I'm asking, a lot of times the issues are so complex, it requires understanding of the business processes and the knowledge, etc. And sometimes a bad business person would be better equipped to even understand and handle that, right? So in your experience, typically, is it HR led, or should it be HR led, or business led, or it is equally distributed? What's your experience?
So in my experience, Sanjeev, it should be led by HR or the employee relations if they have a separate function like that in the organization. So they can be neutral and they are the trained and enabled investigators to do the investigations. So I advise it should not be by the business team or the line management. There could be a bias of conflict of interest, right? Because most of the cases, the issues are against the management, against the managers, or against the workplace conditions. So it should be led by HR or the ER and an
Okay.
independent
And
function.
what about the organizations? Because I understand in an organization like Kyndryl or IBM or Google, there could be very specialized function where HR is like case management or employee concerns, where the professionals are trained to do investigation and they're trained to stay neutral as much as possible. We're all human beings ultimately, right? We could have our own biases, but business sometimes can be involved in the issue sometimes, right? But we could bring a business leader from other departments to do the investigation, right? But what's your guidance about smaller organizations where they may not have luxury of a specific function of employee relations or the employee concerns or case management? How should they deal with it?
So I may suggest, Sanjeev, it could be the HR. Definitely, any organization will have an HR department, right?
Correct,
Maybe
of
an
course.
independent HR partner be there.
Mm-hmm.
And if there is no specialized functions like ER or any investigation team like us, maybe they can bring in the business leader from the other function where they have no interest to do with this current concern
There is no
reporting.
conflict of interest.
Yeah,
So
conflict of interest, if it is established, it is not there, we can bring in the other business leader. Or
all
otherwise,
right.
we can take these business team as the witnesses in the investigation to get the facts against the concerns. So
All
as
right.
far as is concerned, we need to ensure that they don't have any interest in the case too.
There is no conflict of
So,
interest. Of course,
yeah.
that has to be there. It goes without saying. And Sushil, is there a practice in industry to bring in, because I know in West, in certain geographies, it's a typical practice to even bring in external experts, and that is especially with a smaller organization. But what's your advice? How do you see it in India in particular? Do you see instances where there are some professional experts like you or Padma who are trained and they offer their services and organizations deploy them to conduct an independent investigation? What's your advice on that?
So I think I'll take this question from a perspective. When the organization is large,
Hmm.
okay, then you can have those kind of ecosystems and specialize. I'll give you example. The Tata conglomerate where I have been, associated with.
Training. Hmm.
IBM for that matter. Oh, sorry, Infosys for that matter. Like they have ethics people, normal people, business people, officers trained into ethics and ethics investigation. There's a series there. If you're a public listed company, then also you have to have, kind of a whistleblower. While the government has still not issued a notification, but all the public listed company is supposed to have a whistleblower policy, and the whistleblower policy normally goes to the ethics team or a special committee who manage and then assign there.
Hmm.
There are organizations who do investigations and give it to you, but it also depends upon the complexity of investigation. If there are simple things, there is no point, getting a whole large investigation pieces around, could be investigated locally. But if there are elements where it is complex, or there are sensitivities, or there are forensic element required, definitely you need an external person to, or expert to do that. Even if in a normal investigation, if you think there are certain areas which require as you said, subject matter expertise or technical expertise, you can always, seek, borrow, or deploy those experts in your investigation. So simple investigation, keep it within your organization level if you
So,
have.
so net, what you're saying is, and I think Padma, you also said the same thing, is that primarily organizations should be equipped to deal with it internally as a preference. But if there are situations where you don't have that expertise or bandwidth, sometimes it could be bandwidth
Yeah.
also, then it is okay to deploy some independent person. And there are organizations, there are agencies which are trained professionals to
They're
do this
specialized.
investigation,
Yes.
and especially forensic. Can you expand a little bit on forensic
No, they also
examinations?
do it in a normal one also, but forensic could be, the data retrieval from your laptop is forensic.
Hmm.
There's
Okay.
mail trail coming in, electronic trail coming in. There are many more forensic perspective. From a civilian, forensic is more about the electronic data, the data deletion, retrieval of data is around those areas.
All right. All right. So Padma, coming to you, how does one first of all identify if this issue is worth investigating? That's a starting point, right? And it can be a tricky thing, and for you it may be it just a simple matter, doesn't need a full-fledged investigation. Go talk to each other, go to canteen, resolve the issue, and then move on in life, right? That may be your view as an expert, but employee may say, hey, I wanted to raise an issue, but no one gave a damn about it, and they just asked me to move on, right? So organization is not serious about my issues, right? How do you decide on whether this issue is worth picking up as an investigation or not? That's a starting point. And Sushil, I'll take your comments also on this, if you don't mind.
So we take every concern very seriously, Sanjeev, whether it
Okay.
is simple, complex, financial, anonymous, or no names, anything, we take every concern very seriously. And we do not decide on the concern at the first place, whether it is, should be taken as investigation or no investigation, right? So it goes through the process. the acknowledgement, the contact with the concerned reporter, reassuring the company policies, reassuring neutrality, fairness, all that will be done. Only on the basis when we get the actual issue, when we connect with the complainant, and when there is issue that can be resolved, if it is like a matter of misunderstanding or like a simple issue, that can go through triage. So even in triage, we get the business team involved, the HR part. Since I'm representing the COE team, maybe I'm giving my experience as the COE point of view, right?
That's very useful, actually, what you're
Yeah.
saying.
So
Every issue has to be taken.
we take the representation from the business line management, HR leadership, and the employee. Then it can be triage. If it is an understanding issue, we can resolve that. If it is a compensation issue, that can be reviewed at. So all that can be done after we provide this preliminary support to the concerned reporter, because we have to reinforce the faith in the system, right? The employee should be confident to raise the concern, and they have to speak up. So that is how we handle it. Could be triage, or basis the nature of the complaint, or it can go for a full-fledged investigation.
So what percentage of, if I could ask you, I mean, I don't know if it is shareable, and please feel free to say this, I cannot share. Absolutely fine with me, right? Because I understand these are sensitive matters.
Yeah.
Just as a curiosity, if you get 100 reported issues, right? Big, small, easy, what percentage you really take it to formal investigation? They're worth taking into formal investigation. Is it small number or it is a large number?
It is more than 50%.
More than 50. Oh,
More
that's
than
a lot.
50%. Because it all on perception, right, Sanjeev? So if
Hmm.
employee claims it is a workplace harassment, I cannot define it cannot be investigated. So only if it is a
Okay.
issue related to policy understanding or any other smaller issues, refusal of assignment, any other workplace issues, that can be handled through triage. Or even if there is an ounce of discomfort or a violation of policy, it goes through the investigation. So I can say more than 50 to 60% we take it up for full-fledged investigations. And some of the within 40% that we leave it for triage, it could be only for the policy clarification.
That's
But
a
in all the
lot.
cases, we do provide complete documentation. Why did it go for? Because documentation is very key in any investigation, right? So we do have to take the documentation on priority, and we have to have it because once reported, and if you do not handle it, the employees have all the opportunity to claim it as not handled by the company to and go external.
And it's not
So
about claiming,
we
it's
have to,
about building the trust of the
yeah,
employees that there's someone who's listening to you, right?
yeah.
And with fairness and with empathy. Okay. Sushil, thank you very much. I think that was very helpful. Sushil, from your point of view, you deal with hundreds and thousands of HR professionals who are involved with workplace investigation, right? Can you tell me what are the predominant top two, three areas of concern, the areas with which it falls, whether it's a posh area, it's a toxic work culture, or it is whistleblower, policy related concern that people raise. What are the typical issues that you feel across the industries people come up with?
The posh is a very different area, so it goes in a separate committee and you have no information. And if somebody has the information, then IC need to be sacked. Okay. So
Correct, you're right.
that's one. I think in general, let me just add up to what Padma has said. While the saying says, if anything is countable, need not be counted. Okay, so is the case with the investigation. But your specific question is formal investigation. So you
Yes.
definitely investigate every complaint, but it
Hmm.
may not result into a formal investigation because in a preliminary investigation, when you talk to the people, you gather the fact around, then you realize, oh, this is a procedure failure, or this is an escalation failure, or it's an interpretation failure, or relationship issues around. And then you use the appropriate measure to resolve the whether it is query, complaint, dissatisfaction. But it is a result of that preliminary investigation.
Hmm.
Formal investigation takes place broadly in two places. When there is one party who's a complainant does not feel satisfied with the resolution. That's number one. Or an issue is of that great importance on ethics or value system, which company does not or has a zero
Tolerance around.
tolerance around. She's saying, I will go, hammer and tongue, but nail this. Okay,
Hmm.
so that's one. Majority of questions you will find generally are around either interpersonal behaviors, the way my colleague treat me, the way my manager has treated me, little bit of a victimization issues, right? One of those. And then the other elements are, you can call it as dishonesty.
Mhm.
It's more around people not flagging the conflict of interest. It can also lead into taking a favor or a gift, those kind of stuff, which is considered to be
Business
non-ethical.
conduct, violation of business
It's a
conduct.
has a violence of business conduct. Let's say my customer treats you for a five-star hotel treat free of cost, and you are
Mhm.
going there. While you are professional to make a decision, but it does create a potential conflict of interest and a social obligation. So those kind of an issues are there in today's large organization.
All right. And Padma, what kind of issues are you seeing? Because you at a global level, you're looking into the employee concerns for a very large organization like Kindle. I mean, what do you see are the kind of issues that people raise? And do you agree with what Sushil is saying? You want to add up to that from your experience?
Yeah. It is more or less the same, right? What we see most is against the managers,
Mostly.
mostly on the managers, on the
Wow.
workplace behavior. It is on the tone and tenor they speak, or the
Mm.
workplace harassment,
Mhm.
inappropriate work assignment, or it could be like, asking to come to office. So now they're all used to hybrid working, right? Even if they're asked to come to office, it could be an issue. Or it
Yeah,
is compared.
I remember, I can say it, in my experience, Sushil, a lot of employee concern used to come around appraisal time. And
You're
that
right.
time the number will go up like anything, right? And that, oh, I was not treated fairly, I was not giving right compensation, I was differentiated against. And then the case management team is busy resolving all those issues, right? That was a season, as we say, every industry has a season. So that was a season for case managers. They were extremely busy dealing because, but each case still was taken seriously because you never know, that even each case could be, a case of real victimization could be, right? So you can't, it's a lot of efforts, but still, if you want to create that organization of with where employees have trust about fairness, right? This investment has to be done, kind of thing. So a lot of cases against managers. Okay.
Against the managers, and there are two spikes period, right? One, whenever you deploy the new learnings, like, whenever you train
Mm.
your employees,
Hmm.
and they try to apply the learning and the training, like, on their situations they have gone through, and they try to introspect that it could be an harassment, that it could be an issue. So you see the spike in that period, or you see the spikes whenever this, like, performance appraisal happens or ESPs happens. uh,
Hmm.
but my experience, Sanjeev, this has been the case for some time. But with all the enablement programs and the awareness, the organization creates, the number of concerns will reduce, and I have seen that.
Correct. And I was about to come to that. And during the course of a discussion, we'll do cover because one is you pop, you comes the issues and you deal with it. Again comes the issue, deal with. But how do you look into the pattern of these issues and as an organization proactively deal with it, right? So
Yeah.
that these fundamental issues, whether it's in manager enablement or there could be some policy confusion in people's mind or maybe wrong hires, right? Managers victimizations. It has to be systematically dealt with so that these issues do not arise at the first place, right? Because
Yeah.
you can resolve issues up to a point, but somewhere you have to see how to resolve it also.
Yeah,
So,
if I can pitch in, I'm sorry, take 1 minute.
sure, sure.
You were speaking about reporting in the beginning, right? Maybe that
Hmm.
could be an appropriate place where you can place all your prevention and correction actions. And that is what I have been practicing in my, like, work life. So whenever you close a case, definitely there will be a root cause analysis, there will be a trend, there will be a correction action required. So the
Hmm.
report should capture these pointers. They should call out the action, like, substantiated or not, and call out the corrections required in future, and work on prevention with leadership, with your managers. And once you do that, you have to do a follow-up also. So that could reduce your numbers, and I have seen that result and the progress over the years.
Exactly. So I can see Manoj has joined. Manoj, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, hello. So I was in the flow of discussion, did not check for you. So how long you
No,
have been here listening to our conversation?
no. By the time Sushil was speaking, maybe he was ending his talk, so I joined
Okay,
that time.
very good. So very welcome. I know it's a
Thank you
very
so much.
busy time for you, but I thank you very much for sparing time, Manoj. I've given you a very brief introduction, but can I circle back to you and ask you what has been your experience with workplace? How did you get into this, right? Accidental, by choice? And would you like to say a few words about it, first of all?
First of all, thank you very much, Sanjeev, for having me here on this platform. So when you had actually shared the intent of having workplace investigations, I think this is the most sensitive. It's more than a hygiene, HR hygiene. It's a more a risk management and governance from promoters' point of view. And from MNC's standpoint, if I say it's a more of a ESG requirement as well.
True.
So I think the awareness has grown in the corporations. And the day I was, my chairman said, Manoj, no more working in the for the businesses. You come to the group. And I said, what I will do, sir? So he said, no, no, there are a lot of things to be plugged. I said, every CHRO is competent enough to handle their businesses. He said, no, from chairman point of view, I need governance and assurance.
Wow.
And then he said, tell me how many times you have done chairman governance and assurance when you were there in the BUs. I said, yeah, but if there are issues, I was chief ethical officers in my additional role in Mumbai for Adani Electricity. So I said I used to handle, and wherever the things are, coming up to you, I used to discuss with him and then used to resolve. He said, no, no, no. Now we are growing length and breadth, and the way things are, getting into the 10x level. So I need a complete governance insurance and set right my group's portfolio on this. So then I started thinking that how to figure it out that it is such a large. We have more than 600 locations. Out of that, 300
600 locations.
yeah, 300
Wow.
plus manufacturing locations. So when
Wow.
I started figuring out that how the unified systems, processes, systemic growth that can take place into the industrializations, the unionization, the workplace investigations, the posh and the domestic inquiries and everything. So I had a huge list that I was looking at. What is the competence level of my people at sites? I never figured it out because I was there in all the businesses, and
In
I
fact,
used
that's one question I'm going to ask you and all of you. You know, what will make a person a great investigator, right? Because I think that skill, we cannot assume that anyone who's in HR would have that skill. I mean, we should not assume that, I'm sure.
Yeah, it cannot be assumed, Sanjeev. It's a very tricky question to the HR folks. They think they know everything and they know that everything can be done. I think within the framework of the law, if I say domestic inquiry itself is a, semi or quasi judicial. So all that nuances of natural justice has to be known to the investigator. Unless he knows, all the inquiries they fail in the court. Then the HR folks, they say, okay, let's have somebody external. So they do not know what time the internal person should figure it out and what time external experienced qualified person should figure it out. They
Hmm.
do not know about it, because the minute their CEO or the promoter they say, they just jump into it. There are posh case, for example, the committee members, they do not know, anyone is asking the information. Any CEO will say, okay, send me the list of witnesses, and the person is sharing copy, keeping copy, and blah blah
Yes,
blah,
sir.
everyone
Yes,
there.
yes, sir, or yes, ma'am, I will give
Yes,
it.
sir. They do not know. Then when I came into this role, I started stopping. Hey, don't send me the list. I'm not asking it. I'm a group resource now, and I'm stopping you. My group's CHR was also asking. I'm asking Manoj to get into. I said no. This is the role of the internal committee. I can't get into. That's their role. They said they do not know the skills. I said they have to learn it. I can't jump into it, right? So those were the initial discussions when we started having to set right things, and then we laid the procedures, started training people en masse about the POSH, all internal committee members, and then we created a separate investigation cell. There are qualified people who do the investigations. They involve me whenever senior folks are there in that framework. Like there are ethical issues. We have legacy businesses we acquired. So if I say the electricity business, it's a government electricity supply.
Yes.
People in the field, they are involved in bribing. So that was in huge. So initially there was huge flux of the cases, but the minute we started spreading the awareness about it, this is what code of ethics, code of conduct, sign code of conduct, and we started telling that this is how, putting a lot of information around. It's, I always used to say, you are under CCTV surveillance. That is a caution rather than having a CCTV actually, right?
Correct.
You have
Assume it is there.
policies,
Assume.
you have policies, but you have displaying this information, you are under that surveillance, you are under that posh vigilance, you are under code of conduct. I think that sets right the tone of the discipline that we desire, the objective we try to achieve.
So Manoj, I mean, you beautifully said that there are certain skills required for investigator, as we say
Right,
in WPI, workplace investigation, right?
right.
What will be, and I'll ask Sushil you also, because we have been training a lot of thousands of people around, right? And Padma, you also. What are two top skills that you think an investigator should have?
I think the first and foremost, I'll say it's a neutral questioning.
Hmm.
There should not be a confirmation bias. It should not be preset that somebody who had said that he has done fraud, and the person who is investigating, he's already having a confirmation bias, and his all questions are towards that only. He
Hmm.
is a neutral man, and how to be a neutral person, I think it is by questions people get practice to it. And then I think more than emotional intelligence, I think it's more about how to handle the pressure. There is a lot of pressure. The person is my friend, he's an old associate, or somebody is calling, Manoj, this man, you just take care. I can witness, I can vouch. But then how to sustain that pressure and still remain neutral and maybe politely tell that it's a process, you know. I think
Hmm.
two core skills that I have come across. And the third, I will still say, it's a structured thinking. Before getting into this role, I think one has to put the thinking in mind that what is that structure I'm trying to carry before handling this, because there are a lot of inputs that he has to prepare, and there are a lot of things he has to handle in between, and a lot of that he has to handle post, because he can't dictate the punishment. His role is not to have the punishment. He's an investigator.
Punishment.
And
Investigator,
I
correct.
have seen the even doctors when they say, health checkups, pre-employment health checkups, put him to that role, so and so role. When the person is, I said, no, you're not the administrator. You're not the appointing authority. You
Just
can't
do your
dictate.
analysis and give
Yeah,
me
you
report.
can
That's all.
say that what he can do and what he cannot do. Whether he is to be sent for work from home or he can be given a light work, that is a managerial decision, administrative decision. That's not your decision. You tell what he is, whether he can, what is the problem to him, right?
So
So a
Manoj,
lot of
I'll
times
also. You'd
we
said three
cross that
things.
line
Three
as an
things you said.
investigator.
Absolutely, very rightly said. Neutral questioning, then emotional intelligence and handling pressure, and structured thinking. The three skills that an investigator should have. Sushil, would you like to quickly add maybe one or two skills that you think, in your experience, should be there with the investigator?
The
And
first
last,
thing
Padma, you
first,
also.
first thing first, there is no skill in this world which an investigator does not need.
Of
Okay.
course, I understand, but on the
Okay.
top, on the
So
priority,
that's
that's
one. So
okay.
it depends upon the situation. But what Manoj has already said, but one is the ability to, what he said is structured thinking, prepare well.
Hmm.
Okay. I mean, they should have what they are investigating. What is that will it succeed? Questioning skill, as he said, not only the bias, the high quality question. The person should know what's the purpose of asking a question. So that's number one. As he's talked about pressure, I will call it resilience because
Hmm.
investigator will hit the wall every third step. You're excited about the investigation, the other person doesn't cooperate. You're hit the wall. So how do you still stay focused and come back?
Resilience.
Okay.
Hmm.
And the third thing, apart from what he said, building trust and listening, is analytical mindset. Very clear data focus. I know, is it my evidence or it's my feel? Right? How do you differentiate fact from the feel? It's very, very essential and ability to gather the facts.
Okay. Padma, you want to add to this? So we got very interesting and based on experience. These are not theoretical
Yeah,
lists. This
yeah.
is based on experience.
So
So you
I will
want to
have
add to
two
this?
minutes, right?
Yes.
Okay. So if I had to take the complete investigation cycle, Sanjeev, I say that, as a good investigator, one, you have to build that trust with the parties.
Yeah.
As I said, take all the complainants seriously and
Building
let the
trust.
employee know that it is taken seriously by my organization. And two, provide interim support. The interim support could be like, providing the employee well-being services, changing the location, changing the shift, changing the project, or keeping the concerned employee in suspension, change in management. So provide this interim support to the employees involved. And three, you should be prepared. When you have the concern, it is not in the investigation meeting you are going to crack the case, right? You have to get the data, analyze it, be prepared with your questions, analyze, interview witnesses. If there are no names, do a climate check. You should be prepared with the data points. With
Excellent.
this, if you go and interview, and if you're active in listening and you are building that trust with the parties and giving them the comfort that it is their opportunity to put forward their points, and I think they should be open to provide all the input to you.
I think one thing that I gather from whatever Manoj, you, Sushil, and Padma you have said is we should not let anyone get into investigation unless we have really coached them, upskilled them, prepared them
Absolutely.
to deal with it. I think we are doing disservice with the complainant, with the employee and the organization and this person himself or herself by putting him in the situation where person is not ready to investigate. So even if you have to hire from outside in the interim, do that, but
Yeah.
don't put anyone who is unprepared into investigate. It's a very serious business. And I can tell you from my experience, it happens day in, day out where people who are not even trained or not even interested in investigating, it is they take it as a burden, as a job given to them. Oh, you have to do it, kind of thing, right? So that we do disservice. I think that's one thing is coming very clearly. But Manoj, one question I would ask you,
Yes, please.
how do you deal with a situation? Because there are times person will cooperate, there are times person will not cooperate. He or she has decided not to cooperate. Can you
Right.
give a very quick 2 3 minutes tips to us on how do you deal with the situation when the one of the party is not responding, is not cooperating, right?
Padma has already answered on it. It stems from fear. The non-cooperation comes from fear and guilt. So
Hmm.
once you establish the trust that this is a process, you have the investigator has to be polite. So his role is not that somebody has told him to investigate. He start, acting like a cop, right, or a police station,
As you say,
right?
you're not interrogator, you're
Not
investigator.
an interrogator, right?
Correct.
So giving him an opportunity to be heard, I think that's one of the principle of the natural justice. So telling him the process, this is confidential, and this is how the inquiry has been. I can tell you one of the case without putting the context into that.
Hmm.
So he was not cooperating, and he had uh, you know after meeting couple of people, and everyone one was saying that he's a hard nut to crack, and he's not opening up. So I made him sit. I offered him water, coffee. I said, gentlemen, we had been working together for many years. So you know me and I know you. So that I have been very neutral person always. and I actually want to help you. So, can you just help me understand what exactly has happened rather than interrogating that why this, that? So, I said, it's a process. So, how do you handle such processes? I said,
Hmm.
this is for my clarification. I want to understand that. And then
Okay.
I made him to speak. Once the person starts speaking, so your 50% trust is already bought in, right?
Excellent.
Then I said, can you help me show your bank transactions? Because it was a code of conduct case. If
Okay.
that has not happened, I told him that you can trust me, you can confidentially show me, and I'm there to support you. And if there are evidences in favor of you, I will rest assured I will consider it. So he said, yeah, Manoj, I trust you. I said, yeah, just show me. He opened up his mobile and shown me all the transactions, which he was hiding, maybe because of guilt, maybe
Yeah.
because of apprehension. Once police reaches at your home, people in this society, they will start putting the point on you that this person might have done something wrong, or the
सही
person
बात.
who is approached, he's also feeling guilt that why police has come to me, maybe I have done something wrong. So after a while he started talking, and then he ended. He said, Manoj, but I have not committed this. I said, I'm not saying that you have committed this. You are
Hmm.
saying, why you are saying that? I'm trying to open it up so that I better understand and you transparently explain me. So then finally he was not cracking. Then I used the tool of silence. I gave him silence. I gave him a pause. He started thinking. Then I left the room. I said, just relax. I'm coming. I'm sending the another cup of coffee. Then I came back. I said, look, he was a person we were apprehending that, if he goes to media, this, that, maybe he can reveal. So I used the same tool. I said, if this news goes to the media against you, this will be very
Jeopardize
difficult
your
for you.
career. Hmm.
So I'm not saying that you accept it, but I want you to tell me the truth. And if you don't want to reveal the facts, then accept it. He said, yeah, partially I accept it. So I said, okay, can you help me understand what is partial? He said, yeah, some transactions happened, but that's long back. I'm not into it now. So I said, now. So,
How
there
recently?
are cues as an investigator you get. That's very active listening Padma used in the conversation. So when you understand that, so where things are coming up, then you have the cue where he's tracking me, right? He's tracking the investigator. So he's showing me the path, and I have to track through that. And then finally, he accepted. He said, Manoj, what I need to do? I said, two options. This is my role. And now I handle all from top senior management to the all,
Hmm.
whatever difficult cases come. So, two options. I can terminate you by your clause of appointment letter. That's one option. Two, I have a formal domestic inquiry and terminate your services after having evidences known to the people around that what you have done, not done, and the initial, primarily the investigations team, what they have done. So they have some evidences. I do not know. I have not seen it. So I'm a neutral person to you. I'm a friend to you. So then he said,
Very well.
what is the third option? I said, yeah, you can resign. He said, okay, then I will resign. I said, all right. Then
I think
his
thanks for
hands
thanks
were
for.
trembling.
Okay.
He requested me, can you just help me write? What should I write? I
Oh my.
dictated him. He wrote, and I had the letters, all the letters ready. It is such a situation when I am in a position of authority, I can't wait for the next moment for him to think. If it is a termination, my letter is ready. If it is a
Okay,
acceptance of resignation, that is ready, because the case came to me at last stage. It was like I'm having a full authority to decide immediately. So
So
in
Manoj,
normal case,
Manoj, absolutely. I think thanks for taking us through detailed history because it gives us an idea of what happens, how to deal with a difficult case where a person is not opening, and their learnings out of it, and the power of silence. I made a note of that. Sometimes that works wonders,
that
right?
works.
And show
That
your
works.
trust. So Sushil, I'll go to Sushil. Sushil, one thing, a question came is about the report, right? Because any investigation, what is the importance of writing? And sometimes I know you can do a brilliant investigation, but do a very shoddy job of writing the report, right? You have done disservice to the whole process, right? Can you guide us based on your experience and the trainings that you do? What is the importance of the reports, right? And any tips to us how to make it very authentic so that tomorrow we can stand in the court of law, this report that you're writing. So over to you.
Before I do that, I just wanted to add what Padma and Manoj has said on these non-cooperation stuff there.
Okay,
Okay, allow me to a minute. And
sure.
everyone has said, what is the purpose of other person not to cooperate? Right? 99% is the trust either in you or in the system.
Correct.
Okay,
Hmm. Hmm.
that's number one. Number two, I have seen this in reality. I have seen this in training. Investigator's role is not to make the person confess. If the person confess, fantastic. If the person doesn't confess, you know what data point people are saying, and you are making a
Absolutely.
judgment from a data point and saying, hence this charge is proved, whether the person confess or does not confess. So
And in
that's
your view, Sushi, a lot of time people,
it is always like this because investigators is sitting on a position of power. The question comes straight that tell me why did you do this? If you were not there, then why did you do this? It's a very aliegating questions.
so you're
You
not
Correct.
can't
acting
program.
neutral. You're not acting neutral there,
I mean,
correct?
it's
Okay.
because it's a very natural for human because you are an interrogator and already somebody is accused there. Number three is your questions. I've done this training program up to a number of times, experienced people. If you type their question, it will come at least in 4 lines.
Hmm.
Right? I mean, they have no structure way of putting it because they're mentally set up that I have to crack the nut. I mean, you don't have to crack the nut, my friend. You say this nut is nice or not nice based on these parameters. You don't have to open a nut to figure out whether the nut is nice or not. So investigator's role is if the person confess, very good. If the person is still not confess, you have the authority to evaluate other points and make a judgment. And that is why so many times arguments start happening during conversation. Right? And that's what Manoj is saying, and that's what Padma is saying. Build trust. Stay open. You don't have to close right there and then everything around. So that's something you should look at. Stay away from arguments or proving your point as an investigator. Now, I'll
Perfect.
just another for our
Report.
audience also, what Manoj has also mentioned. It's called funnel approach of questioning. Okay.
Hmm.
The funnel approach of the questioning is while we say how, what, these are, we are saying these are open questions. There's a further above starting point of opening question is a very, very open. Don't say what happened. The question is, okay, describe the situation, something like that happened. Take me through this situation around very large platform, which is little non-threatening to people, and you pick up cues from the conversations, and then come then to, Acha, you were telling me this, tell me what happened. So you're
So
now
funnel
funneling it
approach
to
that you're saying, start from broad question, but then
very broad
you know where
question,
you're leading.
continue to very
Okay.
sharp question, and always end with the validatory question. So what I heard you saying this, is this correct? Yes. So that validating that there is no interpretation issues. So that's about questioning. From a reporting perspective, I says your investigation is as good as the report of it. Okay.
Very well said.
So
Very well said. Very well said.
Correct. Correct.
right, if you can do fantastic job, if your report is useless, it doesn't stand a scrutiny or law, it's the entire investigation is flawed. I think three things I will just go back and tell you this. Before even you write a report, you must have a tally. What is my checklist for investigation? Have I completed what is required? What are the objective I set? What are the charges I am trying to invest? Is the data enough? What is the propensity of this data around preponderance of evidence, as we technically call it there? Have I interviewed enough from an evidence perspective, which gives me a confidence of making a judgment? Once you have those kind of a stuff, it will normally will give you enough material to craft a report. While organization will have standards around writing a report, but three things I will see in a report writing, and specifically in the Indian situation or this part of the world, we are used to write complex sentences. Our one legal, the way we write, so our lot of time our sentences are so complex that it loses its meaning in translation or interpretation. So I will say stay clear exactly what you intend to say, right? Clarity in terms of words you are using. Ensure you are complete and comprehensive, that you are not missing the points around. And stay concise about this report. Not every report need to be 700 pages. That's not your CBI charge sheet of 40,000 pages. Even if the report is, a couple of paragraphs, you must have concise report, clear report, and ensure that you each element has a reasoning explained for your judgment, which is
Reasoning.
supportive with the
Okay.
data. Yes. So if I'm saying this person has done it or not done it, here is the evidence supporting based on which I am arriving at a judgment.
And during investigation, sorry, I'm interjecting you, Sushil, we are short of time. But
Yeah,
during investigation, you will collect enough supporting data points, evidences to substantiate what you're saying, right? It could be
absolutely.
witnesses interviews, or any data point during forensic investigation, could be anything to substantiate what you're saying, right?
And collection of data point, as Padma was saying, Manoj was not there, is not incidental. It is part of your
Part of
preparation. What
before the
evidence I
investigation.
wanted to complete? Yeah, before even you step out of the room, you must have, this is the chart. Preparation is the most important element. What evidence I must have? What evidence I should prepare, which will tell me whether the allegations are true or not? But you want to add?
No, no, I was just supporting your
Yeah,
statement,
yeah.
Sushil. So when the investigation is initiated, I say that the key role of an investigation, prepare your checklist, prepare your data points.
Hmm.
Only once you have that handy, your investigation can go smooth. And
Yeah,
even this, like, non-cooperation, you can deal with it very efficiently.
very efficient.
So we are on time. I mean, 1 hour flew just like we never felt that one hour has passed. But I think we can go on. But I have a some very quick announcement that as enabling world, there are some programs that we conduct in this area. If anyone's interested, in the chat, Kalyan will put the email address and the phone number. You can reach out to any one of us. It could be about workplace investigation or IC certification, about IC members training. It could be disciplinary action or prevention of sexual harassment or proactive employee relations. There are many, many programs, but we do conduct in case anyone is interested. So thank you, Vijaya, for sharing that. But I think if I summarize what I'm listening from all of you, two three things key takeaway that I'm taking from this discussion is: one is the preparation, that there has to be huge preparation before you even get into investigation. Your investigators need to be properly skilled. Don't put an unprepared or unwilling investigator into the scene, because that's going to do a lot of disservice. And during investigation, build up that trust and follow principle of natural justice, as you mentioned. And the power of silence, Manoj, I'm taking that from you, is very, very important. Sometimes you don't have to be at it continuously. Maybe give a pause. Power of silence is important to extract more out of the people. Funnel approach, as you mentioned, Sushil, about the questioning. Right questioning skill is important, and writing proper report supported with data and evidence is very, very important in the whole thing. I think if we follow these basics, as a playbook for workplace investigation, we will do a better job of the job that has been given to us and its most sensitive and important role. And as Manoj was saying, that chairman personally is involved in this function. I mean, what else can happen, right? There are many other things to do in life, right? But if the chairman is interested in this, that means it would be important as a part of our ESG objective of the organization and for your reputation and brand as a fair and fair employee, right? So from that point.
Absolutely.
So I think with that, I wish I could continue, Manoj, Padma, and Sushil on this interesting topic. But I think for today, I will stop here because I'm very conscious of the time of our audience. And audience, I'm sorry we could not interact much from asking the questions from you because there was so much to be shared by all the three panelists, and they are not, theoretical guidance they're giving.Ey're saying from their own personal experiences, which has worked for them, and in their own training, in their own consulting assignment, in their corporate assignment. So thank you very much with that. I hope all of us will take maybe one or two takeaways and create a better workplace where employees will feel heard. They will have a trust that if they bring up an issue, it will be dealt with fairness and empathy. So, with that good hope, let's close the session today. And thank you, everyone, to the audience and to all three of you. Wonderful sharing. And
Thank
there
you,
is a small
Sanjeev, for the
survey.
opportunity.
Thank you very much, Padma. Lovely to have you here. So there's a very quick poll here about how did you like the session. This is for a feedback to us, candid feedback. So if you can share it, it'll take 30 seconds. With that, stay safe and keep building a great workplace wherever you are. With
Thank
that,
you.
good luck. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. If you have any questions, I've just listed an email ID if on any subject which we couldn't cover. We'll be glad to, support you and
Support.
answer your questions. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.